Bam!
Is that?
That was that guy that's the cook. I'm not really like him, though.
Oh, what was his name?
I don't know.
Like
He's Italian.
and
So
you start
Italians
with an
do that
M.
whenever we want attention. We go, bam!
Bam. Well,
How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
She's back.
I'm back.
The hostess with the mostess is here.
Thank you.
Holy crap, I'm holy. I can't believe it. She took off.
I did. Hey, I was entitled to a birthday trip and I took it.
She had a birthday.
I did have a birthday.
That's some crazy shite.
On election day.
I don't know. We know, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Today is 11/11, which people other than you find magical and fancy. I thought though that because people always say like, oh, it's 11/11, make a wish, but the idea of 11/11, like if you're looking at the time or even if you're looking at like the date itself, the idea is that there's supposed to be a portal between worlds, and so that's why when it's 11/11 they say, oh, make a wish. But part of that too is not just make a wish. It's sort of like if you're thinking negatively, you need to change your thoughts into a positive. So if you're thinking to yourself like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired, and you look at the clock and it's 11/11, then you're supposed to change your thought process to, I have enough energy to get through this day. And then it's supposed to be like the universe will mirror whatever you're thinking in that moment, whether it's good or bad. So if you catch yourself in a shitty thought at 11/11, change it, because you might manifest some bad juju for yourself.
Anyways, what's going on? How you guys doing? We're manifesting some good juju.
Manifesting some good juju.
Yeah. So what are we talking about? What are our haps? What is the fourth episode going to be about?
Okay. Well, we have a plethora of.
A plethora means a lot.
A plethora does mean a lot.
Means
so
a
we're
lot.
going to go over vocabulary today. We just felt like getting crazy and wacky. We're going to have a vocabulary lesson. No, we have like a bunch of questions that were written in advance, and I assume we'll have things coming in throughout the show. So
Sure.
I kind of thought we could play it loose. I did write down some notes about the new moon that's coming up and some astrological points that I can reference if you're...
I'm down with that.
You're down with
What
it?
do you say?
Okay. So, well, Mars goes direct on Friday the 13th. Mars is the action planet. We've talked about this before a little bit, but it's sort of like the planet of passion and drive. It's very primal, and it's been in retrograde, and now it's going direct. So we will begin to feel more momentum coming through when it comes to personal projects. I feel like with this project, it's been a little bit like when you're starting an old stick shift car, and it's like, we'll get it in gear. Because we're like, we got to figure out what our social media is. We have to figure out how to put it on a podcast platform. So I feel like, just relating it to our own personal circumstances, things should start to move a lot more smoothly. But there is a post retrograde shadow to every planetary retrograde. So it won't be extremely smooth until kind of like December, but things will start to pick up momentum and our energy levels will get to pick up. If you've had like issues with your sex drive being inconsistent, that will start to pick up.
I've had that since the 80s.
Well, this is your lucky day on the Friday the 13th. I don't know if anyone would believe that of you, Sal.
No.
I know. And then looking at the new moon, which we have a new moon coming up on Saturday, November 14th. This is a new moon in Scorpio, which anytime there's a new moon, it will automatically be in whatever sign the sun is in, because that's just the way that the moon and the sun align. And it is going to be, I forgot to write down the degree mark, but it's going to be sextile Jupiter directly. And a sextile is a positive aspect, and Jupiter is basically the planet of luck and expansion, which is currently conjunct Pluto, which is, it's a planet of personal power. It's a planet of transformation. So this is actually an extremely lucky time for Scorpios, or for people who have a lot of Scorpio in their chart. So it's a really good time to look at planting the seeds for your future. But anytime there's a Scorpio or a Plutonian aspect in our charts, we want to think about sort of like identifying our patterns and think about what is no longer serving us, what we need to release, what we need to get rid of. New moons, if you're looking at the traditional way that the moon phases are followed, new moons are usually for setting intentions, because we've talked about this before, the light is growing. But hey, you can look at dumping off behavioral patterns as like, I'm setting my intention to not do this anymore. Because there are some harsh aspects between there's a square between Venus and Pluto. There could be stuff with like exes coming back, or like you may begin to identify behavioral patterns within your relationships that you thought maybe you outgrew, that you need to once more address. Luckily, there is a trine, which is a helpful aspect between Venus and the North Node, and the North Node shapes sort of like our karma moving forward. So there is a lot of good energy to identify, you know, what's going on with my communication skills in my relationships that's making things become unhealthy. Stuff like that. You might have epiphany moments around that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take action towards change. You know, the square between Pluto and Venus can make it difficult for that transformation to take place. So remember that if there is any personal work that you need to do that you become aware of on this new moon, that things do take time, and it really is about sort of like being gentle and calm with yourself as you go through transformation. So try not to be too like put too much pressure on yourself to make immediate changes, but know that this is the time to sort of think about what you want those changes to look like and allow them to grow.
And that was our show.
I'm sorry, astrology.
No, it's okay.
There is so much information that you can dig up with astrology that I just feel like I literally could go on it.
No, it's totally
forever
fine.
and ever.
Totally fine. You know, it's cool. It's like, you know, I get excited because, you know, new moon. Actually, I can't really say new moon because it's not really new moon. I like the dark moon. I like it before the new moon comes because, as we've discussed before, it's all about my Deipnon time, and it's about my time to connect with Hecate and stuff. And but I always try to get it before it goes new, you know. So it's still, I don't want to see a sliver of the new moon. I want it to be pitch black. You know, that's the times that I'm most comfortable for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got some stuff you're gonna do?
I do. I'm gonna be doing some work. I'm gonna be summoning some spirits, actually. In the Jason Miller system that I'm currently working in, we had to go out and, well, we didn't have to. Some of us in, you know, across the country and around the world that are in the chorus, had the ability to be able to buy this certain scrying device that you use specifically to pull in these 6 spirits or entities. Sorry, not 6, 8. Jesus, I said 6.
Oh my God!
So
Sal.
they're called the 8, and the 8 each have a specific reason for being, and they're 4 and 4, 4 male, 4 female entities. But anyway, I have this specific board that we're going to get to try it out for the first time this Saturday.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, so there's going to be. I've got a couple people that I do magical work with that are involved in that same system, and we're breaking out the board this week and doing Deipnon, and then we're going to go in to do ritual.
Do you feel like your experiences have become more intense since you've been working with this system?
1,000%.
I have a question for you, because I feel like I feel like with magic and psychic ability, there's sort of like an ebb and flow where it's like things will be really intense and then it kind of like lightens for a little bit. Whenever things are super intense, I think that there's like, you have to sort of like balance like this sort of like weird magical energy that's happening with like being grounded and sort of like based in reality. Do you feel like that's like something that you have to be cognizant or mindful of?
I mean, reroute that question to me so it's
like when you have a lot of intense magical work going on, and it changes your perspective of magic, and in turn like your perspective of reality. Do you feel like you have to be like extra mindful about like
carrying over into life? You mean?
Yeah,
for sure. If I'm doing really heavy work, I tend to feel that way, especially if I'm hired to do work that some would consider not positive. We'll just say I have to go in there with a game face.
Yeah,
that doesn't allow that to come back into my life once I go in the room. But I have certain because of the system that I'm in now, I've got certain guards up that I didn't have before. I'm a lot more connected to specific entities and spirits, I guess you would say. Especially like whenever I'm doing my work and I need protection, I call on the Gorgon, or the Gorgon, whichever you want to call it, which are basically what people generally call Medusa. But she's there's Avril, Stheno, and Medusa. There's three. There's three sisters. A lot of in a lot of the Greek pantheons and the systems that we're working in specifically, they always come in threes, in this triangle that forms around you when you're doing work. So I'll call in the Gorgon when I'm doing anything, so I can get shielded and protected by them.
Okay.
Whenever I feel like that could be too heavy, because some of the stuff I get into is pretty intense, so I have to have that around me, and like. But if I'm working with like a positive, working that I'm trying to do, and like, feeding it with like certain energy that's positive and trying to make something happen, I call in the Jaritas or the Graces, and bring in the Graces because they're more festive. They're like I think they're like I think it's the Three of Cups.
Right. It's like a celebration.
Girls. Yeah, the three girls. That's taken from the Graces, and they're that graceful, jovial, enjoying time.
Yeah, it's like a weird scene from the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah. Which is I'll call on them when I'm doing more things, but I always have protections around because of that. Because before working in Jason's work, I had my ceremonial background, and I always had Hecate, and she was there, but now it's just ramped up. It's so ramped up, and it's I'm so excited because the next lesson that we get in the course is the last one, and it's over, and then we go into Heka 2. So some people decide to stay, some people decide not to, but I'm definitely staying on, and then I'm doing another 7 months. And then I'll go into Heka 3, and that's the final one.
Oh, wow.
So the next year and a half, it's going to be amazing, the stuff that I'm learning. It's just so deep. It's so much more intense than I can explain in any system that I've worked in over my years.
Right.
It's really full on,
Yeah.
I love it. For sure.
Nice.
So yeah, I definitely have to have that shield up when I'm doing stuff.
We have some questions coming in.
Yeah, it looks like it.
All right, let's see. What do you guys want to know from us?
Yeah. Besides, why are you guys weird?
That's
Christy
that's a
McLean
whole show.
wants to know, why are you guys weird? No, just kidding. So
Well,
I'd love to hear
started
someone
at
talk
birth.
about home protection and his favorite methods. Okay, I can pop on that for a second. A lot of people come into the store wanting home protection. And when we're talking about this, obviously, from the occult perspective, not from the protective of thieves.
Right.
Although that would protect too. You could also do something for that.
It's true.
But we're talking more on the ethereal realms and things like that. There's definitely things that you can do. I'm a big person for putting certain wards up, certain incantations on the walls that people don't see, like in art. But at the very, for people that are new and they're trying to get involved in that, black and white stone in a corner of every room is great. A witch's protection jar is great. They're easily made. If you don't want to make one yourself, you can come and see us at the shop, and I can make a personal one for $20, or a whole family is $30.
Do you, when it comes to protection jars, do you recommend burying them or putting them in a window?
I put them in the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people I find, especially in urban kind of environments, they don't have a yard as much.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of them using the windowsill, and I like the sun and the moon to be getting to it.
I was just gonna say that I like the sun and the moon aspect.
Super
of
important.
Things.
So there's that. I'm not a big person that's big proponent for saging.
Right.
I only want to see saging happen when there's absolutely something that's got to go. And then once you do it, don't do it again.
Or
and
if it's a new place. If
or
it's
a new place.
Yeah. Or a new car, like a new used car.
You want to sterilize it, of course, but then after let your emotions and let your love grow. And because, when you use sage, it polishes all that out again, and you have to start new again. So try to use your Palo Santos, use frankincense and myrrh sticks. That's always great, and if you're going to get a frankincense and myrrh stick, easily, if you like that, and then start at your front door and go counterclockwise in every room, through around in a big circle, as much as you can make a circle out of it, and just push out the negative energy till you get to the front door, move it out. Then go ahead with like a Palo Santo or something, light it, and then clockwise in. And then start, what you're going to do is start invoking, bringing in the positive.
Yeah, I like to do that when I'm going through my house. I'll like, push everything out, but I like to take it a step further, and depending on what room I'm in, I'll use a certain like herbal blend or incense blend depending on like what I want that room to hold in terms of energy. So if you want to get like extra crazy with it,
Yeah, but I mean, if there's people that don't really that are new, that are trying to grasp onto things, it's always good to use something that's just gonna help you carry your intention. Remember what smoke does? Smoke carries intentions to their goal. We use smoke in spellcraft and in witchcraft because it carries the intention upward to the gods. So it's like a pillow that brings it up. So, really, if you're burning anything nice, especially if it's a protective lunar blend, which would be great. Myrrh is really great for that. But when you have the sun and the moon, which is frankincense and myrrh, because frankincense is solar, where myrrh is lunar, it's also the archetypical male energy. So frankincense and myrrh together, it's a consecration and a blessing and protection. It does all that together.
Right.
To move stuff out. So and you also see all these different names like banishing incense, reversal incense. These things can all be used, for those reasons. But, you have to see why those words are there. Usually what it really comes down to especially when you're in the shop downstairs, you'll notice that everything is set up Ptolemaically. It's all the planets that specifically we're trying to tap into to make specific work happening. So if you really wanted to have that energy of business and communication and movement, and you're in your den or your office at home, Mercury.
Yeah, totally.
You push Mercury incense in there. Move road openers. Orange candles, or any of those type of things.
Even Jupiter too. If you're like a person who is like
judicial, it's Jupiter for sure.
Yeah,
legal stuff matters.
Yeah. Oh, I also love brick dust or sea salt across doorways. If I feel especially under attack, I'll do windows as well. But that's like a ward.
I have a lot of brick dust at the shop. I love getting.
I love brick dust.
Yeah,
I know.
Some of the brick I actually brought back from New Orleans.
I brought you some from New Orleans.
Yeah, actually,
too.
you brought them.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what I'm using the stuff you brought me back.
Yeah,
actually,
it was
that's
like
what I'm selling to people right now. It's great stuff. But also, if you're feeling attacked, and a lot of people are getting this lately, they're like, "I'm really feeling attacked in my sleep. What can I do?" And I always tell people, and I'll put it out right now, is like when entity or spirit is trying to really attack you in your sleep, and you're feeling accosted, and it's really aggressive, you want to put something in the place of that so it bypasses you. And I always tell people to get a small saucer and make a bed of salt on a little plate, and then take an egg, a raw egg, and keep it in its shell, lay it on the saucer, and slide it under your bed. And what that does is it bypasses you because it's pure, it's embryonic. And then it also gets housed in the egg. So usually, it more times than not, what will happen is it will move right by you and go to the more innocent space,
right.
or the embryo aspect, because it's unadulterated. And you can store it, and then after about a week, take it off property and bury it somewhere that's, deep down in the earth.
Right.
Don't break it.
And where you probably won't spend a lot of time going past.
Or anybody.
Somewhere out of your way. Yeah. But when it comes to that egg, with that egg sort of like practice, if someone is specifically casting against you and you're the target,
they're fucked.
Well, I know. I agree with that. But I'm just saying, do you think that egg would work in the same way because you're a target versus it's looking for innocence?
No. That's why I said if it's entity, it's one thing. But no, not by. I don't think it would help for another person as much. That's where you got to start getting defensive and making war bottles and stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. Like that's like when you look at the front of our shop. I hate talking about the shop so much, but when you look at the front of the shop, there's all of those antique bottles. Well, those aren't just antique bottles. All of those have things going on in them. And there's a specific one that's a protection jar, like I was just discussing, that just keeps the vibes moving, keeps everything clean. But next to it, there's another jar that's black.
Yeah.
And that has just got all kinds of nasty in it.
I
waiting to
have
go.
made the grossest, most foul.
I love those.
Yeah, like I think I gave you
The war water?
that dead water.
Dead water. I've got it still.
Oh my gosh, this water. I have a little bit of a taxidermy like hobby thing, and I was bleaching this bone that my brother found in the desert for like with a peroxide water solution, and I just kept bleaching it, and like I've never ever had the smell of sulfur or any weird scents come out of like me trying to like clean or bleach these bones. And the way that water smelled, like I thought there was like a demon in my house, because I didn't think about the fact that I was bleaching bones, and I just like smelled this sulfur and it smelled so awful. And then I realized where it was coming from, and I was like, oh my God, this is disgusting. I'm going to use it for witchcraft. And I bottled some for you.
Like
Yeah, I bottled some for you, and I bottled some for me. And then I went in the gym in my garage and I worked out. And as I came out of the garage that same day that I bottled that water, there was a dead hummingbird right in front of my garage.
Yeesh.
as I was like, oh shit.
That's a sign.
I was like, that's some real witchcraft shit.
That's some good shit. Like I remember one time there was somebody that was fucking with me. This was years ago in my old relationship. There was somebody that was fucking with me, and there was just kind of a little battle going on. Not even witchcraft battle. The person was just an asshole, and I was just I had it with this person, and at the same time I was hanging out with this other friend of mine in the alt lifestyle that I used to hang out in. One of my friends has a performance group called the EMF, the Aesthetic Meat Foundation. Okay, and he would do live performance art with animal blood that he would actually get specifically in jugs. And he would go to places where they would have pieces of animals that were euthanized or whatever. And he would do performance art with them. So at the end of it, he gifted me a goat head. But the goat, and a lot of people are going to be, Sal, you're fucking gross. But I'm sorry, I'm a witch. This is, I
should be on a shirt. I'm sorry,
yeah.
I'm a witch.
I do real shit, and I got it. What had happened was, he gave me this head. But when I say head, I'm not talking about like the skeletal remains. I'm talking about
with the
everything
meat
still
and
on
the
it. The
connective,
eye,
yeah.
Everything was in it, and I wanted to, have this piece for my altar. And so I lived in a yard. I lived in this area of North Hollywood with a yard, which is rare. With just so happens there was a red anthill.
Oh.
And I was like, fuck. So I took this, and at that same time, that person was being shit to me and fucking with me. So I just got really mad, and I just put it all into that head, and I put it on the anthill for about a week, and the ants just covered it.
Yeah.
And it cleaned it off, and like 2 weeks later that person had rashes all over their head and their arms, and yeah, it was really cool.
That's a good story. That is a really good story.
Witchcraft. If you know someone has hexed you or has been magically messing with you, like binded your magic or froze your abilities, what would you recommend to uncross yourself and throwing it back to the other person? And then what would you recommend to make sure this person never messes with you again?
Ooh.
Wow, that's really, really heavy. So let's look at this. Let's break this down in sections. If you know someone that has hexed you, if I knew someone that was hexing me for sure, that was definitely messing with me, and froze your abilities. I've never experienced that.
Yeah.
But when people have messed with me, sure, I go right into Saturn, and I just do heavy binding.
Oh yeah, I'm a Capricorn rising. I'm like,
Yeah,
you want to fuck with me?
Yeah,
Saturn is on my team.
Yeah, me too.
No, thank you.
We're
Like,
both
you
Saturn.
don't know.
We're both Capricorn rising.
Yeah.
But I would definitely go into Saturn and start doing work there. As for freezing my abilities, I've never experienced that. So I can't speak for what I would do on that. I would just really, if somebody froze my abilities, I would be going right to my deity
Yeah.
and asking.
He's going to tell mom.
Yeah, I would go to mom for sure. I would go to mom for sure. And what would you recommend to make sure this person never did that again?
Wait, I have a frozen abilities comment. I would just do like a road opener, because that would be an obstacle or a block. I would just slap some cinnamon on a candle and consider the cinnamon as little sticks of dynamite, and that it's going to break up any sort of like ice or freezing that's been placed on you. I will also say that when it comes to hexes or like people, if like people like having control over your own abilities, as soon as you identify it, you have to stop believing in it. You have to stop believing in it and just like, nope, I think this is happening. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. That's where, back to the no fear, no guilt, no self-doubt, type of thing. So yeah, I just would never allow that to happen. I've got too many wards up on me. So I'm pretty sure this person is probably going through this and they're asking what they could do. So yeah, you could, like she said, you go through Mercury, but I would definitely go to my higher aspects of self or power or deity if I had it, and start pulling that back in. And then what would I do to never make sure that person messes with me again?
He would throw a cow head on an anthill. It would be
really bad. I would definitely go to war. I have no problem with getting my knuckles in the dirt, but I would definitely start. I would have to decide whether or not it was going to be combative, because I'm not always going to put on my army helmet and go in the ditch and fight.
If
sometimes
you feel
it's
like
not worth it.
If someone's not worth it, if it's just like an annoying like a pest.
If somebody's really, really going for it, at this juncture, you're asking if this was me going through this. I already have. That's why the Gorgon's on my finger. She's always there. I've always got that around me. I've got to. And working in a store like this, being around magical people, being around other people that own other businesses that could be similar to this, other people that have other ideas like what we've got here, you're going to get animosities. And so I'm constantly warded.
Me too.
I'm not trying to like push at anybody to get them to fuck with me, because I don't want to be fucked with. I don't want to fuck with anybody.
It's not it's not worth it, because it's like anytime I have to like take care of a situation, I'm more annoyed that like it's taking energy away from what I'd rather be focused on.
I don't want to do that.
I do think that like I think that like what you have to put a little bit more concern into though is it's like if it's someone that like knows you, like if it's someone that you had, like you said, you had like an ex or something that like but it was the guy, it wasn't your actual ex, right?
What guy?
The goat head.
Somebody was just messing with us, just being a jerk.
It was like your girlfriend's ex or something. I think that like if it's someone that you used to have a relationship or an attachment to, there's like almost like a stream, like a cord that they can access, so that's when you have to like really like do banishings and cord cuttings and like cut that shit off and like kind of remove that person from your mind as well, because if you think about it, they can attach whatever bullshit they're throwing at you, so you almost have to like ignore it and just be like, this person doesn't even fucking exist to me, like your magic doesn't fucking exist to me.
But when you sometimes when it gets really heavy, you have to defend yourself, and then you get into it. I've seen outcomes, I've seen really drastic spell work come to be that I didn't do. It's just on the passion and the intent. I believe that. But I definitely would say the first thing you need to do is get into some Saturn work and start doing some binding on that question. Yeah. What are some of the questions we have? You said we have a lot.
Yeah, we do. Here's one that we have from Kim. She wanted to know, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts on this too. She wanted to know, how can you tell intuition from paranoia?
Wow. Go for it.
Okay, well, I mean, I think this is really, really hard for people who practice witchcraft and believe that they're psychic, because I think that like when you start to have negative premonitions, there becomes to be like an anxiety will form versus like, am I manifesting this or am I like seeing into the future? So like if you're afraid that something could go wrong, and then you become even more freaked out that you thinking it could go wrong will make it go wrong, like that's when something like meditation helps to balance things out. I think that when I had my psychic awakening, when I started to dream extremely vividly every night, and I was forced into basically meditating because it was the only thing I could do to feel normal and to feel like I had control over my emotions. I think that that's really the key to like mastering your intuition. Having that ability to stay cool and identify what messages are coming in and whether or not they're even yours. Because if you're empathic and you're just like feeling anxiety for no reason, but they're like, you know, there's not a mental reason why you should be feeling anxious, that's when you can try something like saying return to sender. Because this isn't mine. I know this isn't mine. I don't feel like there's a reason I would be anxious. That's when that's like sort of crossing into that empath line where you can just sort of say, hey, you know what? I don't think this is mine, so you have to go. And if it is a situation where you're paranoid that something bad might happen, the only thing that you really can do is ask the other side, you know, if my will has an effect on this, I will for a positive outcome. And then if something bad does happen, you know that you're not the one who manifested it because you stated to the universe that you don't want something bad to happen. And then it's just sort of like intuition is a bitch. Like, you know, I've had one really weird experience happen to me where I felt like I was, you know, like, well, okay. So like if you do Coke, you get like a drip, like a nasal drip in the back.
Wow.
No, you do. You get like a chemical taste that comes in the back of your throat, like nose into your throat. And like I did Coke in college, but it's been years. And I kept having that taste over and over again for like 2 days. I was like, why the fuck am I tasting Coke? And then I found out that my friend's ex-boyfriend did Coke that was laced with fentanyl and died. Wow. And so that's when you're like, what would, like, how does that attach to anything? I could never have understood that that's where that was going. And so sometimes you just have to accept that like psychic ability is hindsight and it's just part of it.
So what can you throw the question at me now?
How can you tell intuition from paranoia?
Wow. That's a very tight quarters, I believe. It really is because, you know, trying to figure out whether something is one thing or the other, I'm trying to see how I could explain this but it's not going to be exactly the difference between intuition and paranoia. It's like, for me, I don't claim to be any of those things like empathic but my intuition as a human is on, and I think that we all have intuition. I think we all have the ability to have great intuition, but you also have to have yourself in check. I mean, that's part of being a magician and being a person that studies the occult. You know, that's why it's not all about spellcraft and witchcraft. And it sounds groovy and sounds fun talking about all this, but if you don't have the tree of life in check in Kabbalah and the Sephiroth are out of sorts and they're out of balance, you're out of balance. If you're not your equilibrium isn't there, then you need to go back and start working on that, because paranoia is death, especially in witchcraft. Because what do? We, you know, a lot of curses, you know, going into like the word curse, more times than not, when you hear somebody's being cursed, it's because I curse you.
I'm and like, my dog is right there, Sal.
I used my I didn't use
Take
this
it
hand.
away.
I didn't use this hand. It's all right. I wasn't really doing it. But if, you know, when a curse was thrown, it was the words. And when that was thrown at you, it automatically seeped into your mind. You know what I mean? And that's how curses happen. And, you know, that's why most people, like, I don't know if I'm going off on tangent away from where this is, but I'm trying to make it stay with what I'm going. But like I always tell people 98% of all curses are self-induced in the psyche. But that doesn't discredit that it isn't a curse. It is a curse, because if you acknowledge it as being one, then it's already there, and now you got to work to get it out. So, you know, you can't be paranoid when going into a magical situation. That's why, you know, I've known a couple of in recent times, a couple of occultists that I know were really wanting to work with belladonna. And, you know, when you start working with these herbs, the Hecatean herbs that are poison, you're going to be scared, you know, and if you're not scared, you're fucking dumb. Okay, because it's putting a loaded gun in your mouth. It's like when you're touched, the minute a secretion of any of that plant gets in your system, you're on. You could die. And so people knowing that, I've known a couple of magicians and witches that have used it, but they're so paranoid about wearing gloves and wearing a scarf and having all this stuff, and it was like you're in a COVID room. You know what I mean? Wow, I just totally used a term that's new. But you're in that space, and you're so scared of what you're going to get off that you're not going to get your work done.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't let paranoia lead you. If you're going to go in there and you're going to use wolfsbane, which I suggest you don't, be strong in your action. If you have doubt in your work and you're starting to feel paranoid about what's going on, then you need to back the fuck away from that altar and come back when you're ready.
Right.
Because if paranoia and that can be one of two things. A, it can be paranoia, or B, it can be a warning sign telling you, you know what, you're not ready to be doing this.
Ooh.
And you should listen to that intuition.
Yeah.
That could then become paranoia, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helped, but you really have to know your mind.
And yeah, just that grounding. I mean, because it even goes real quick, just like to the other, like the counterpoint of that. Like I've seen so many destabilized witches or people who say that they're psychic because they don't have that grounded energy about them. And so it's like not even with paranoia, but like with mania, where people are like la 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 la, and it's just like, you need to just chill, like just bring it to the center, so you can see every angle.
Yeah, and it's just like that, and that goes back to that old adage that magic is like a gun. You don't want to be manic and crazy
Oof.
acting with a firearm in front of you.
Yeah.
You have to look at magic the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you just do haphazardly, because it's gonna have recourse. It's gonna bite you in the ass.
Yeah, you need to sit with your intentions before you execute them, really.
Cool. So what's the next one?
All right. Okay, so this is a good one. This is from Justin. He said sort of like, do you know about sigils, kind of like the lore and the uses behind them?
Sure. There's two basic types of sigil work that most people are geared towards. One of them is really actually Scarlett Amaris, who's a great teacher here. She does really great classes on sigil magic. And a lot of those are invoked almost subconsciously by drawing on the page and creating shape with intent and creating something really fantastical and utilizing that intention to make the spell happen. And then also you can burn it, you can bury it, you can put it in a doll, things like that. So that's more free form sigil magic, where you're making just geometric shapes and design, or flowy movements of swirl patterns, or this is just you're letting your mind go free and invoking into that ink and into the paper. That's one. The way that I am used to doing it is not the way Scarlett does it. There's an amazing book by an amazing occultist named Frater. Frater means a brother, okay, and especially in ceremonial orders. So his name, he goes by the name Frater U.D. The letter U, period, the letter D, period. And the book is called Practical Sigil Magic. So sigils, parasigillum, there's various ways of making them by building shapes. One of my favorite ways of doing it is, I want a new car. So I will pull all the consonants out of that sentence and get rid of every one that's doubled. So now you have single letters that were the consonants of that sentence. And then I would start stacking them writing them over each other to create a specific box or shape or movement. And then I would use that to, there's a couple ways I'd use that. I would put planetary oils on them and incense. I would get some way of putting it in front of me so the image is projected into my subconscious mind to cause the manifestation to happen. You could also take and put them in what's called an artificial elemental and encapsulate them in certain geometric shapes. After you have it, you envision it, put it in that shape, and project it out. You can do it that way. Another great way of making sigils is one of my favorite ways it's called Kamaic squares, or squares of Kamea. It's Kamea, and what those are is they're certain squared. They look like an image of a square with a certain amount of small squares in them that correlate to a specific amount. So Saturn it has 9. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little boxes in it. And what you do is, using gematria, which is magical work through numbers, you can go ahead and figure out phrases that will build into the intent. And then you will put them over the Kamaic square and trace a design that knocks into specific numbers on that square. And then you take that and you can go ahead and put oils and burn it with incense and cause the manifestation that way.
That is some advanced masterclass shit. You're like, just take your Kamaic oil and blah, 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 then like grab your planetary oil, and we're all just like,
But you asked, so that's the one way I use those a lot. And they're really not as complicated. You really just want to break everything down to a word, even if the word doesn't really make sense, as long as it makes sense to you, and you add it in. Another way you can do it, which is the traditional way, is actually taking the gematria, which is magic through numbers, and correlating your name in the Hebrew alphabet and finding the numerical equivalent to each letter that way, and then trace them on there. So that's another way of doing it as well. But I would suggest, just so you can wrap your head around it more, Practical Sigil Magic by Frater UD. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's another great book if you want to do more of the free flow. I forget her name, but it's downstairs we have it in the shop. It's called Sigil Witchery, I think. Or Sigil Witchcraft or Witchery, I forget. But it's actually a really great piece. It's more freeform and artistic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Some people tend to go into that. Ceremonial magicians, that's when you start getting into ceremonial magic, you get really, really specific. Like, if I'm going to do ceremonial magic, all the altar cloths are going to match the color of the planet, and the moment's going to happen, and then light's going to shoot out. And,
wow.
It's like really specific.
It's like
and I'm like
pyrotechnic
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, -5, -4, and then boom. It has to be all timed. Right down to the lamen that I'm wearing, the clothing that I've got on, the evocation of the archangels, and how I'm using them. Sorry, I'm tangenting.
Do you think that that's more effective than like a more laid back thing, or does it just depend?
Don't ask me that, please. It makes me want to run to the bathroom or something.
What?
Yes. I am a ceremonial magician at heart. It's like, I like exact shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, so I'm going to be kicking it tonight, and at the same time, I'm going to make this and send it out. Some people do that, and it works for them. And I'm not knocking that. That's fucking witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
But you like the real specific shit.
You're a Virgo.
Yeah. I'm a motherfucking Virgo.
You're a motherfucking
I'm all
Virgo.
Earth. I'm
which
Virgo,
is why tools would be like, so you want to touch.
I like chingaderas. I like things. I like stuffing things and stuff.
That has been your word lately.
It has, chingadera. I think it's Spanish actually in origin, but 'cause I am all Earth. It's my rising is Capricorn, and my moon is Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trine in Earth.
Yeah.
I'm just all
yeah.
Yeah. So that was a great question. That really got my rocks off there for a minute. I was getting.
He was like squirming in his seat.
Squirming. I was doing the pee-pee dance. You didn't have to go. So how are we doing out there? Is anybody out there shooting live questions? Are we good? We good?
We're good? Okay, cool. So let's see here. Okay, so Gabriella wanted to know, could you guys speak about forming your own coven?
I love that topic.
This is not my specialty. The only coven I ever formed was when I was 13, stole my dad's gin. I got a copy of Coven Craft.
Stole my dad's gin.
I did. I got a copy of Coven Craft. We broke open my dad's nasty gin, and we formed a little baby coven. And then the other time I was supposed to join a coven, it broke up the night I was supposed to join it. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Okay. Covens. what does coven mean? Coven means to convene, to gather in a space to do specific work for a specific thing. There's also groves. There are people that like using that term, that are, that come together at certain times. Do I think covens are great? Hell yes, they're amazing. Is it jumping the gun to try to start a coven? Yes, unless you've got a lot of background and you've got a lot of years, and you've got to set up your foundation correctly. Is it going to be a Wiccan coven? Is it going to be anthropomorphic witchcraft based? Is it going to be just spellcraft? Is it going to be building around the Sabbats and the Esbats and the Wheel of the Year and the God and the Goddess? Is it going to be all female? Is it going to be all male? Is it going to be male and female? Is it, these are the questions you have to figure out. And who are these people that you're gathering with, and how many are there? Sure, traditionally there is a number. I talk about this in my series. This is one of the reasons, and it's leading into the question you're asking. But when a witch wears a cord or a cingulum, it's a cord that wrapped around the waist that we have our ritual blade or a thame is in. But traditionally, what you did with that cord was it had a feminine side and a masculine side because it was looped on one end. Go figure, feminine side. You take your boline and you place it in the center of that, and you pierce the ground. You stretch the cord out, and then you grab a stick or whatever have you, and then start moving in a circle. And when that cuts out, the cord is measured exactly to have up to 15 people adult in that circle.
Oh, okay.
If the cord is exactly the right size. And then there's knots in the cord that create personal spaces as well. But you generally have between 12 and 15. Anything after that, and now it starts getting into coven stead. So this is where you're usually have a high priestess or high priest. More times than not, it's the high priestess, and she is the matriarch of that situation. And underneath her are the elders of the coven. And then underneath them are the coveners. And that, you try to make it as judicial as you can and politically right as you can. We're all humans, so sometimes egos get in the way, but you have to keep that stuff in check. And you have to have, if you're really getting into a coven, you want to have coven bylaws and, certain amounts of time that one person can be in that seat till one person is removed and the next person comes in. So there's a lot of work that goes into forming a coven. But what are you looking at when you want to form it? What is you want to all agree upon the deity or deities, or if there isn't one at all? Are you meeting only on certain moons? Are you meeting at certain Sabbats? Are you meeting at Esbats? And if all of a sudden Mary, who's in your coven, you find out doesn't come to the moon ritual, but then she's at another group doing the same thing, is she allowed back in?
Right.
These are all, it's socio-political structure. But it usually builds, with the high priestess being first. And after a certain time, the high priestess will step down and the new priestess will come in, becoming the high priestess. Then after so many times, or even the first time, that person then becomes the witch queen. Because what happens there is when she's high priestess and more people are coming in, or dedicants that want to come in that aren't quite in, they start to form, but then all of a sudden they want to work in the system that you're working in, but they're 60 miles south and they can't make it to all these rituals. So now you give them permission to hive, and that creates a coven stead, because now you've got that one you preside over that one and that one over there. So the witch queen, even though she's retired from her position, now has to oversee all of that.
Every time you say witch queen,
you're thinking of,
my face just goes, like, I just immediately, it's just such a great combination of words.
It's not the that stupid show. What was that show called?
Sabrina?
No, the other one.
There's
the
one Magicians?
The one with she's the new blah 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 blah. The new, the girls. Nope. American Horror Story.
Oh, I don't know. Kind of fell off that. Yeah. But I will say.
But she uses that word. They call her the new
Oh, I don't know.
There's a name
If
for
you
it.
want to be more laid back about it, though, if you just have like some girlfriends that like, you want to like
Let's not be gender specific here.
draw tarot cards and like drink some wine and like set intention candles, like that's fucking cool too. Like that can be your coven. You don't have to have like a scroll with the bylaws and like a witch queen. You don't have to.
No, but that's not. I mean, we're talking about coven in the 21st century. I mean, I had a bunch of girls come in here, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not judging them because it's not my place to. But they're like, "Oh, we're a coven from Disneyland. We're the Disneyland."
I mean, that's
They built a little coven around.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes with your level of like
Maleficent and
seriousness, like
Yeah.
your level of because like that. Obviously, you have a much more serious approach
Yeah.
than I'm like just get drunk with your friends. It's
Yeah,
a coven.
it's
fine.
like covens are. It's a very serious thing, and that also when you get on that. What about when your measures do you allow your measures to be taken? What's a measure, Sal? Why a measure is back in the old days when somebody was joining your coven, you would measure the circumference of their head.
Oh.
The measurement that it would drop down the back from the top of their head down to their feet. Then you'd measure also around their hip line. And then you would take their nail clippings and you put that with their astrological chart into a sealed envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And if they betrayed the coven,
Then you have
all their juju.
Yeah, see, that's like I don't know.
Some covens don't like that.
I wouldn't like see that's my hang up about covens too is like I don't know who I want to be sharing space with. Like I would have to really really like trust and know the people that I was getting in a coven with, because I just feel like if I'm getting vulnerable with my energy and I'm sharing space with you and I'm creating really really strong magical and psychic cords, like
Yeah.
I better be able to trust you with my fingernail clippings, but I'm still not giving them to you.
See, that's
ever.
the problem. That's the problem that I have with it. I would totally give that to any group that I was with, but I wouldn't just sign up with any group to be with them. I mean, I was baptized in witchcraft. When I say I'm a witch, I'm not saying that because it's cool and I own a shop. I did it because I crawled across a fucking floor with 7 women over me straddling as I was on a tow line, blindfolded with salt in my mouth.
Right.
And I fucking crawled on my hands and fucking knees while they screamed at me, and I was birthed. Okay, that's fucking witchcraft.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And that's what when I was in the Golden Dawn, I had to go through a fucking 5-hour neophyte ritual and swear to so many things that I can't even discuss them now, and I'm not even in it anymore.
Right.
So yes, you want to have a coven with somebody? Are you prepared right now to drop your fucking laundry? Take your clothes off right now if you want to be in a coven with the
That's
rest of your
not a
people.
problem for everyone.
Well, you'd be surprised. And also, when you're in this coven, who's baptizing you?
Yeah.
I know that my students that came through me were baptized in all the elements. They spent a year and a day striving. And then after they did a year and a day, then we formed a coven, and I picked the first high priestess, and now I bow to her.
Mm-hmm.
Because now she is my high priestess, and she has seniority over me, and I'm her elder. But that's just how it works. So I'm really specific about covens, and I love them, but it's not a game.
Yeah.
It's life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because remember, covens were there because they needed to hide. And the reason you took measures back in the day is because if you didn't, and then somebody opened their mouth, loose lips sink ships, you'd be hanging off a fucking pole in the middle of the town.
Right.
So you have to be damn well sure you can trust your sisters and brothers.
Yeah.
And it's not just sisters, by the way. That really heats my shit. So it's people. There's no fucking binary shit here. It's people. We're human.
Yeah.
Okay. Wicked Witch of L.A. I practice traditional witchcraft, and I want to know if there's anything about Buka or Baphomet that you can share. I can totally keep going. I'm going to let you talk. Because I will just spill on this too.
I mean, I
getting
think
hot.
that you might actually have more of the knowledge on this topic. I mean, Baphomet I know a little bit about. It's like do as you will, but I know that like every single part of that like statue and his poses, they
Yeah.
all have like specific meanings that like I researched and then retained none of. So
Baphomet is the goat of Mendez. The goat of Mendez was originally drawn by a man named Eliphas Levi. Eliphas Levi was a ceremonial magician. He was also a scholar who wanted at one time to be a priest, but he ended up not going in. Instead, he moved on. He joined the Golden Dawn. Got involved in ceremonial magic, and he wrote a great book called Transcendental Magic. So the goat of Mendes that we all see, or Baphomet, or the sabbatical goat. Sometimes I think it gets confused with different things. Now, in the Christian ethos, their view of the sabbatical goat, the devil, and the witches, basically these old women sucking on the ass of this goat man, is how they imagine Baphomet. That's not the goat of Mendes. Baphomet is the depiction of the goat head, and the goat head has two horns going up the goatee, coming down, and two ears coming out. That head is Baphomet, and that was used by different sects, including the Templars, to cause fear of the people that they were fighting, and they put them on the shields.
Right.
And it caused frenzy because they were freaked out by this. Okay. But now going into Levi's goat of Mendes, that the Satanic Temple has readapted to fit their system, and I'm not knocking them, but they have changed it a little bit. The symbol that we're talking about with the cross-legged individual with their hands up and hands down, that's solve coagula, that's solution and coagulation. It's pointing at the waxing and the waning moons. It is also, when you're looking at it, the head, as I described earlier, is the microcosm. And between his eyes is an upright pentagram, which is the macrocosm, which is which is above, is a reflection of that which is below, which is Hermetic philosophy. Okay. And also, Baphomet literally is the tree of life in Kabbalah. Every section of his body moves through the tree, and he is both the feminine and the masculine pillar, which is mercy and severity. And the middle pillar is the caduceus one that rises up between his phallus. And if you look at him in the lower, you'll see the scales of a fish, but he's got the wings of a bird, he's got the arms of a man and the breasts of a woman. And these were things that were diametrically opposed, but together created the yin and the yang of life. So it is mercy and severity is really what that image is. But it became bastardized, and Rider-Waite got a hold of it, and they used that as the devil card. And that was the beginning of the downfall of what we know as the goat of Mendes or Baphomet today. Is people are like, oh, that's the devil card. That's what they showed in the movie I watched the other night when they said the person was getting cursed and the devil card came out. That's what that was. And there's usually two people chained to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's Christian stuff coming into and smattering this image. Baphomet is also, again, the head, and in Levian Satanism, they have the inverse pentagram, and that represents the goat's head, and around it in Hebrew, a lot of people think it's not, they think it's Aramaic, but it's actually not, it's Hebrew, and it is Leviathan, which is the water spirit, or the water entity for that element, and LeVay put that out, and that's what's on the Satanic Bible.
Yeah. I mean, I think that too, like even if we're just looking at the devil card for the tarot, I think that card by itself is even misunderstood, because when I see it, I'm not like, you know, oh my God, you're cursed. I'm like, well, you might want to like look at your behavioral patterns right now. Like, are you acting healthily? Are you engaging with like not the best behavioral patterns? And sometimes, depending on what other cards it's matched with, it could be like, you need to go like have fun. Like, you need to go get into some
stick
trouble.
Out of your ass.
Yeah, you need to go like be mischievous. So it's like, it's going to have a different connotation, but you're right. Like that, like if that ever comes up in like a reading on television, it's always like gasp. And like when I see it, I'm like, fuck yes, let's go party. It's going to be great.
Also, the other thing that well, I want to point out on, because I could talk about this all fucking night, but the torch on his head is actually the light of Keter. Keter is the top emanation in the tree of life, which is the limitless light of God that you bring down the middle pillar, and you commune with it. You know, you bring it into the sphere of Malkut, which is what he's sitting on. So, there you go.
This is a good question.
I'm loving tonight right now, and I've got another one coming up live too.
Oh, you do?
Ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one's a good one. It's from Deanna, and she said, what do you do with your offerings after a ritual? Is there a proper way to get rid of them?
Say that one more time.
She wants to know like how to get rid of an offering, basically.
When you're done with it?
Yes.
I always, for me, short and sweet, and then I'll let you go at it. Usually offerings are some type of food.
Mm-hmm.
If it's food of some sort, take it out, put it by the nearest tree, and walk away.
Yeah.
If it's not, bury it in the earth. Another thing you can do with wax drippings, any leftover, like I am, like if you're anybody I'm working magic with and you empty my incense boat with all the powder, I'll break your fucking neck because I save that because I use it. So I will at the end of all this, the Virgo in me bags up all the melted wax and all the shit that's left over, and I offer that back to Hecate.
Yeah, I have a special trash can for wax drippings and incense dust. That's just
that.
it's like a little clay pot. But I'm the same way. I make sure that my offerings are safe to local wildlife, to any dogs or cats that might walk by it. And I leave it outside. I leave it at a crossroads usually.
Yep.
And if it's something like wine, especially if I have a petition going, like I'll bury the petition and then pour wine over it or something like that. But I also, when I'm doing an offering, I kind of also like to partake in the offering as well. Like I like, if I'm leaving wine, like I'll have a little bit of wine from my own glass. And so it's like I'm actually experiencing it with whoever I'm working with at the time.
That's great. That's good. That's a good way of doing it. Definitely just giving it back to the elements. I've got someone asking, I don't want to pronounce the name wrong, Atelier R&D. If you were connected with the wrong coven or crew, how do you sever from it? First thing you would do is don't be aggressive about it. Go to the high priestess, and if it's a legitimate group of people, you take the information or any tenants that you have signed, because if it's a real coven, you're signing stuff. There's usually affidavits. Like when we built the coven that I have now, you had to sign at least 5 different pages by 5 and have 3 different witnesses besides yourself in there to see that you signed it, and then they sign next to it. It's just like a notary. But I mean, if it's not that literal and you're with a group that you're trying to break away from, go to the person that's running the group, because there has to be somebody that's a figurehead, and explain to them that this is nothing, you're not going to divulge anything that you saw, but that you need to go a different path, and that you ask to let go and go in perfect love and perfect trust.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to quote the Wiccan Reed, but that in that case, that's what I would tell them, because there's no ill there. And if it's an aggressive situation and you need to sever it that way, you need to sever all ties. So that means no texting, no attitudes, no phone calls, no whatever the hell you call it. What do they call that? Media now?
Right.
Yeah, none of that stuff. You sever ties.
Yeah.
And then I would do a literal cord cutting.
Yeah.
And I would cut that and sever myself from that energetically. Period. Do you want to add to that?
No, I don't have a lot of covering experience. We just all we lost 2 members because they got scared. And then, we were just 13. So
it's like really weird. When you guys ask me these questions, I'm not trying to be pompous or obnoxious. It's just that when it's very real.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone
it's my
thinks
years
that.
of my life,
Yeah.
The next question was, which Golden Dawn lodges are still active and you would consider legit? Okay, my home lodge is still together, and I do not have the URL in my head right now, but I will post it in the Facebook group if you can get on there. But I can tell you the name. If you search Temple of Isis, Mighty Mother, and they are in Panorama City, in Los Angeles, here in the Valley. So Temple of Isis, Mighty Mother. Great physical group. That's where I came from. I learned a lot. You get a lot of great knowledge. They're always open to talking to people. It doesn't cost a lot of money. If you want to do it astrally and you don't want to be involved because of our present situation in the world, you can astrally become indoctrinated by doing a couple different things. You could you can buy the book Modern Magic by Donald Michael Craig, which will get you in what's called the current. So the current is the magical energy of the Golden Dawn that you can attune yourself to without actually having to join an order. So you can do it that way. Or there's another great book. It's called Secret Teachings of the Golden Dawn Temple by Chick and Tabitha Cicero. And if you read that book, it'll take you through the grades up until what is called Portal. And Portal is 5-5, which is, again, I'm speaking Greek to a lot of people, but that means the bridge before you go into the inner order. So which takes years and years to do. I did not make 5-5 when I left. So it's a lot of work. So either of those books are great, or Temple of Isis, Mighty Mother.
All right.
We are rolling. This is a great night.
We do. We're
rolling. Yeah, I like these questions.
All right. So here's one from Allison, and she asked, are essential oils considered to be witchy, and how do you use them? So this is funny because I actually found my aromatherapy certification today, so I feel like I'm qualified to answer this. I think that, yeah, they're witchy if you use them as part of your witchy tool, but I don't think on their own they necessarily are, because you see like weirdo, like those weird essential oil, like
doTERRA.
Yeah, like those culty people who are like
those culty people.
Yeah, well, no, like the weirdos who like,
here's some frankincense for $800.
Yeah.
You can drink it.
Well, no, that's don't drink your essential oils, because that's really, it kills
really
all the
stupid
yeast in your stomach, and it like messes with your one of the astrologers that I follow, Annabelle Gatt. She just like had this huge thing where she went off and she's like, it kills your gut flora. Don't drink or consume your essential oils. I think that, if I'm going to use an essential oil, it really just depends on what I'm trying to do. I use essential oils in every ritual that I do. I dress all of my candles with essential oils. The best way to sort of get involved with that is like, I just built up my collection slowly by like going to Sprouts and just picking up like what I could afford until I had, a sizable collection, which I do now, but then also just getting like a reference book,
Or combined see me and I'll give you a reference chart.
Yeah, exactly. But, depending on what I want to do, I also have like, I have an unscented lotion that I use every day that I'll just put a few drops of like whatever I feel like I need to bring in. So, cool. And then also like your aromatherapy diffusers, like what are you trying to bring in? And so it really just comes down to having some sort of source that you can go to so you understand what the magical properties or what the even like, mental properties or healing properties of each oil are, so that you can put your intention into it.
So what is the question again? May I have a stab at it?
Yeah.
Chatty Cathy tonight. I'm sorry.
You?
Yeah.
Are essential oils considered to be witchy, and how do you use them?
So witchy. First of all, I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you mean used in witchcraft, for sure. So what is essential oils doing for you magically? They are coming from plants. What is an essential oil versus a perfumer oil or a scented oil? Essential oils, those are plants that can have literally oil pulled from their leaf or their flower or their root, strained and dropped into something that a vessel. And it takes a lot. This is why pure essential oils cost so much more than other versions of oils.
Right.
You'll see other different names. If it's not an essential oil, if you see essential blend, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay. First, so what you're looking at is, let's say, rose. If it's rose, so how is that witchy? Well, it's Venus. So it all goes back to Ptolemaic scale. So you know that the herb rose is Venusian. So this is what any type of Venusian work you need to do, you can use the rose oil on. And so when you come to like the shop, damn, I did it again. You've got pure essential oils that can be, they're generally I keep them pretty inexpensive for a dram. Okay. And a dram is a small bottle, and it's about 3/4 the size of a AA battery, let's say. And that holds 7 I think it's seven or eight. No, actually, I think it's one dram is like 14 drops in that little bottle. So it can be kind of pricey, but pure essential oil is going to cost more. So when you buy it, you're going to buy the essential oil. You cannot just put that on your skin. Like if you put cinnamon oil,
oh my God,
it's like putting battery
I've
acid
done
on
that.
you.
Oh my God, Sal.
Yeah.
I just anoint all of my chakras with essential oil, and one time I put cinnamon oil in my ass crack without a carrier or without enough carrier, and it was the worst day of my life.
Yeah. So this is where when you buy oil blends from the shop or a shop, let's not say my shop all the time, a shop, and you'll get road opener, that is cut with what's called MCT, or it's a multi-chain triglyceride, which basically means it's fractionated coconut oil. So it's pulled from the coconut, and it's pure. It's a pure, unadulterated. So it holds scent really well. It will protect your body from burning you. So you want to have it in something to carry it. But when you use these oils, they're all direct connections to the plants, which are direct connections to the planet that you're trying to work with.
Yeah.
So yes, they're very witchy.
And I always spot test your skin too, because like I took a bath once with lemongrass oil, and a grass allergy is super common, and I broke out. So you have to, like, if you're going to like use it in a ritual bath or something like that, like it's worth it to do the test while you're learning and getting acquainted with like what oils amber oil is pretty like.
That's pretty funny about the butt thing.
Oh my God, it was the
when
worst.
When I was like 17 years old, I remember me and my best friend, who is no longer here, the kid I actually started witchcraft with when we were young, we were like going to the mall, and then we are going to go to the skating rink and pick up chicks. And so we went there, and I get all excited, and he was, we were kind of trying to make ourselves look kind of cool to get the girls, and I'm like, Trent, do you have any more of that Pierre Cardin? It was like this 80s cologne that looked like a big cock. And he's like, yeah, I got some. And just splash a little on. Be careful with it. I'm like, oh, yeah, no problem. So then I went and I took the Pierre Cardin, opened up the cap, and just dumped it down the front of my pants. And it went right in my urethra. And I was like, I was like fucking freaking out, screaming, freaking losing my mind.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, cinnamon oil also makes a good muscle rub, though. Just want that last quick thought.
I just got a question from somebody, and well, it's the person. It says Pyro John, Jon 8. Now, I've got a really, 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 really important person in my life, and a very good friend of many, many years, named Pyro John, and I don't know if it's him or not. If it is, please send us a message. Let me know if it's you, because I will help you with whatever you have on you. But on this question, how do you get rid of a curse? Well, a curse, straight up, whether it's self-induced in the psyche or not, we have to, that remains to be seen. But regardless, it's still there. To get rid of a curse, the first thing you have to do is acknowledge it. Come to somebody who's a professional like myself and tell us what's going on, so we can address the situation, and we can give you certain components that you will do. You have to have belief in what you're doing, because like if you believe there's a curse on you, you have to believe the remedy for the curse.
And that you're stronger than the curse.
Yes. And then you come see me, and I can set you up with candles or bag or whatever it may be, whatever component I decide is the best thing to remove that curse from you, because curses are real and curses can destroy your life.
Yeah.
But whether or not they are something you got as a child, or when I was a kid, there was like a cartoon show, and there was this character on the cartoon show called Schlep Rock. And he was like, I don't know why everything happens to me. And like rocks always fell on his head, or he fell in a hole. And it was stupid. But that Schlep Rock really exists in all of us. And, if you're like, oh my God, it's falling on me, why does it always seem like Mercury's in retrograde on me? But even though it's not, it still is. That's because you're allowing that to saturate in the subconscious mind. Because how does spells work? The spell works by getting through the conscious into the subconscious mind, and then it pushes back out and manifests on the material plane. Right. And if that's printed on your subconscious and your psyche, then the curse is working.
Yeah. I mean,
get a hold of me.
The second, and I think the second that you think that there may be a curse trying to come in, put up your wards, do a banishing spell,
Yep.
cleanse your house, take a bath in baking soda. Baking soda is going to scrub your, or salt too, but baking soda is my preference. And just push it out. And then don't feed it any fear or any sort of like...
Yeah, these are all great things, but you really should do some physical work. If there's really a curse there, and I can usually tell within a few minutes, it's very rare that they are there. But regardless, if you have one on you, there's steps that you can take to remove that, and we can totally help you with that. Where are we now?
I think
Paranoia John 8. That's crazy.
We're getting close. We actually have one from Jackie. She says, as per Sal's recommendation, I downloaded the Hours app, and I want to work within the Jupiter hour, but it's always at a -9 strength. Can you talk about the strength and what it means and how it affects the magic, and what the best times to work with Jupiter are for optimal results?
Okay, so let me clarify something with this. The Hours app, or the Planetary Hours app that I've had all my students download, is generally for astrology. Okay, so when you flip that planet over, it gives you all that information, and it gives you negative numbers. That is also about the astrology. I gave you that app because it's just showing you when in what hour in the day is what planet. Don't try to read into what's on the back side of that, because it's not correlating to the spellcraft that you're doing. So straight up, it's not going to do that. You're using that only for the Ptolemaic property of knowing where the planet is in that hour of that day. The astrological side is completely separate. And I'm gonna, while I'm talking about this, I'm gonna go ahead and say this, because we've got an astrologer here, and I am definitely not an astrologer. I am not. But like I always explain to people, the reason that when you come into the store, damn it, I said it again. When you come into the shop, you see the chart on the wall, and they're the 7 ancient planets. You'll notice that Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto do not exist on that chart. The reason that is that way, just so I can clarify this, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but those planets are acknowledged astrologically in modern astrology. But when the Ptolemaic structure was built, i.e. Ptolemy, you did not know they existed because they were too far out of the planetary belt that we live within. So this is why we have 7 days in the week, because they're named after the 7 ancient planets. When you look at the 3 on the outs that are further out with modern equipment, and we know they're there because we can see Saturn now with powerful telescopes, this is called, to a magician or a ceremonial magician specifically, this is called the era in time. It is macrocosmically effective, but more generally, when you want to cause change with will, you work with the 7 ancient planets because they're moving so quickly and so much closer to you than the others are. That's why that exists.
Well, even in astrology, if we're looking at the outer planets, which is what they're called, any sign that is ruled by an outer planet actually has 2 planetary rulers. And if we're looking at like an astrological, like if you're going to be looking at it within like your chart or what's going on with the day-to-day astrology, we really only look at the outer planets if they're aspecting a planet that is more, has a closer effect. So even like as a practicing astrologer, like I'm not going to be paying a lot of attention to Pluto unless it's aspecting another planet. Yeah.
So that's why that is there. So if you do have that app, just stay with the planetary hour and don't let anything else influence the work.
Unless you want to combine astrology with your planetary, but that's a different way. That's different than what Sal will have taught you.
Yeah.
Because I will pull a chart and I'll be like, it's not a good time to work with Mercury, so I have to like give Mercury extra power or whatever it is. But I will look at a chart and figure out what the planets are doing before I do my work. But it's our differences.
Cool. So I think we're down to our last 10 minutes, and I want to spend a little time with you. So if another question comes up, I think that's great. Mm-hmm. But I'm liking where this is going.
Good.
I'm liking what we've got. I'm really happy with our situation here.
Yeah, I think there's only, room to grow, and,
I would like to get more interactive with everybody. I would love for you guys to.
we got to figure out phone calls.
Yeah, because I really want that. I want to have that thing where I can pick up the phone and actually put somebody on speaker.
I would love to do like a quick mini reading live too. If people called, had their tarot questions, just a quick, like 3-card in and out, bam.
Yeah, if there's anything that you guys want to see on the show, I think it would be great. And of course, right now we're in fucking COVID hell. I'm sorry, I'm not wearing this, but I'm far away.
Yeah, we're all really cautious.
Yeah. I mean, our crew, the Shadow crew, is absolutely got their masks on. So, but I would love to figure out some way, and we got to talk to our producer, boss man. But I would love to figure a way of being able to have a guest.
Yeah, I mean,
between you and I, like say some night Scarlett comes on, or somebody with that wants to really go off, and we can dedicate the night or half of the night to a really great topic.
Yeah, and also too, like for people who don't necessarily if you prefer podcasts over YouTube, we are releasing this as a podcast now, and we do need so
you'd have to look at our mugs.
Yeah, well but we do need reviews on like iTunes and things like that, because we want to we want to build our audience.
We do. I really do want to build the audience with Renee. I think that's really important. It's all about getting the knowledge out there. The reason that I wanted to do this was because I'm looking for another means to get information out to you guys. It sounds fun, and I get to dress up in my funky, crazy, weird clothes that you don't see because I'm sitting behind a counter. But you know what I mean? It's fun, but it's really not about fun. It's really about you guys.
I think it's about
what you guys need to. Yeah, but I'm a teacher. I live to teach and share my knowledge, and it's super important to me that people don't get hung up on just my view. My view is just one view in a sea of awesome views, and I believe that everybody's got a view on something,
Yes,
and that's super important. But maybe we can come up with some cool reasons to have themes. I would love to do maybe some kind of neat thing where maybe we start coming up with a really cool question, or cause some kind of contest to happen, and then maybe I do a carved candle and give that away.
We could do something like that. I feel like this is like a production meeting now, though.
Yeah, it's all right. It's good. They're part of the production.
You guys are, yeah.
You guys
anything
are part of it.
No, that's true. No, I love that you said that, and I love that it sort of led to this place where now we're opening the door to your feedback, what you guys would like to see, what you think's working, what you if you start to get bored and fall off, fine. Let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh my God, I'm sick of seeing Sal do the same.
They're gonna be like, more puppy.
Yeah.
She's here.
More puppy. Yeah, dog's here. But things like that, and I just want to make it more interactive. I wish there was some way. I was thinking of some way we could even do a cool wheel that we could spin, and somebody could ask a question. I don't know.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get phone calls in, get your questions ready. It's nice when you guys can send them in advance, and even if it's I just have a random thought. If you're a person who doesn't normally submit your questions, just do it. And
Sal, I don't agree with you.
Don't procrastinate. Don't put it up. If you have even if you want to know about the full moon coming up, because that'll be the next one that comes up. You can ask questions about that too. Astrology questions,
I think
all
we
that.
might have something here.
Okay, then we'll.
Question, no, that was. Sorry, that wasn't a question. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's okay.
I still don't know how to make the computer stuff work, but I guess we're kind of at.
We're at time.
We're at a time. I think tonight. This was awesome. I count my days until the week
I love
comes.
doing it too. I know. It's so nice. I know it's every time I come in, I know it's going to be a long day because we're staying late, but I'm always I'm here for it. I'm ready
Jazzed.
for it.
Just a great crew. Again,
yes.
Just thanking everybody for, helping put this together. Thank you, John and Jackie Blue, and, just really.
The
shadow people. And, really getting, Daniel, for writing that great score. I hope we get to use that more. I know it's hard, but, and Scarlett doing the vocals on it and everything. But thank you guys so much. And
yes, you can find us on Instagram at Betwixt the Shadows, for the shop at the Crooked Path _LA.
Oh,
I'm at Rainbow Glitter Star. My podcast airs every Tuesday, the Glittercast, trying to gain momentum there as well. Please find us both, the Betwixt the Shadows and the Glittercast on iTunes. Write reviews, send reviews. We need to build up Betwixt the Shadows reviews.
We do. We need to make the Instagram work, and I'm trying to think what to put up there, but I just want
let us know what Instagram content you want.
What do you guys want to see on Instagram?
Memes, tips and tricks, crystal of the day. Just fire them off. We want to know what you think.
All right, you guys. This is Sal and
Renee and Voodoo.
And we will see you guys on the other side.
Bye.
Bye.